here is this guy that comes out with his manifesto holding the Confederate flag and had just hijacked everything that people thought of. And we don't have hateful people in South Carolina. There's always the small minority that's always going to be there. But, people saw it as service and sacrifice and heritage.
Service, sacrifice, and heritage. But what kind of heritage exactly, Nikki? The Confederate States of America. Let me just go ahead and break this down for you. I wish I had more paper to throw. I'm gonna break this down for you, Sweetness, because it's obvious that you need to go take a history course, and not the kind that DeSantis is talking about. I'm talking about real history here. South Carolina was the first state to cede the Union during the Civil War. The Confederate states formed their own states, formed their own government, had their own president and secretary of state and defense and vice president, because they decided that, you know what? Oh, hell no, we're gonna preserve slavery at all costs. And even if we gotta separate from the rest of the United States of America, we are going to have our way. And you know what flag what flag was flown to represent that new country that they created? You guessed it, ding, 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 ding. It was the Confederate flag, Sweetness. And if you understand history, you would understand that that flag was created in hate and bigotry and anti-blackness, but you don't get that. You don't care to get that. And then you got Junior over there, Junior the sanctimonious, the Satan DeSantis, sitting up there trying to rewrite history as well. Put up this headline right here. The Confederacy was an anti-democratic centralized state. The actual Confederate States of America was a repressive state devoted to white supremacy. Baby, there ain't no amount of line and revisionist history that you can bring out to change that reality, which is why people like you and DeSantis do not want all of America's history, the good, the bad, the ugly, the ridiculous, the inhumane, the wonderful. No, I take that back. Y'all, all you want to talk about is the wonderful, but you don't want all aspects of America's history to be taught. The Confederate flag was the flag of the 11 states that ceded the Union, darling. Jackson, I'm fit to be tied right now.
It always kills me. There's no way that you can preserve the flag without also looking at everything that happened during that time period. So it's like it's just a completely losing battle. And then again, there's no reason to want to preserve the Confederate flag unless you think that that's the time when those guys had the right idea. That's when we were going off in the right direction. Because if not, then there's no reason to ever even think about the Confederacy, because it doesn't exist anymore, and it hasn't existed for a very long time. But Nikki Haley's response when it's like, what the media, they just immediately wanted to make this about guns and race. It's like, when people say that, it's a reflection of one, they don't care about the issue, and they don't understand it. And two, they don't have anything to say. Like, what is she really gonna say that can really explain what's going on? What is she really gonna have to add that can really help to solve the problem? Absolutely nothing. And so it's just, it's not about exactly what it's about. Every time somebody runs up in a school and shoots up children, it's not about the gun. Then what is it about? So it's just the same old song that Republican lawmakers have been singing for quite some time, but it always kills me. Let's preserve the Confederacy, but let's not talk about slavery. Like, how are we gonna do those two things?
That's it. How you gonna do that? How you gonna reconcile those two things? Why does the Confederate flag exist in the first place? I mean, what kind of nonsense is that, lady?
The natural order of things, they had the right idea. Those guys, they were on to something, and that's why, we got to protect the heritage.
That's it. I mean, just go ahead and say that. I have more respect for you, even though I disagree with you. But I would definitely have more respect for you if you just go ahead and said you like that way of life and that you trying to get us back there. And if her and DeSantis and others, Abbott and others, would be a little honest about that, then we could really have some real conversation in this country. This is what's happening here, America. And we must stop it at all costs. So it doesn't matter if it's the sanctimonious or Nikki Haley. What they are spouting, what they are putting out is wrong all day long, twice on Sundays. Now, America, we got to get it together and stop being complicit in our own demise. And for the love of God, we should not let anybody take us backwards. Now, we can debate on some various topics, but there's some things that are not open to debate. And the 11 states that seeded the Union and started the Confederacy is not up for debate. That the Confederate flag was a real thing rooted in hate and anti-blackness is not up for debate. That Africans and then their American descendants were enslaved for generation after generation, treated as chattel, is not up for debate. That they were forced to build this country for free is not up for debate. That how they were treated has an impact on today. The wealth gap between blacks and whites is not up for debate. How the legal system treats black people most of the time is not up for debate, sweetness. None of those things are up for debate because there's a bright line between the past, the present, and the future if we don't make change. And you was lying about it to comfort the few white people who so fragile that they can't understand and grasp the history of this country without being offended. Hell, they offended, I'm offended. What they offended for? Black people are the ones that are offended. It was our ancestors that were enslaved. You got some nerve to talk about you offended because a history teacher is gonna teach the history of this country? You offended and then you wanna rewrite it to not tell the truth? And then what y'all did to the Native Americans, you took their land, you genocided them, the Trail of Tears and all other manner of hate and bigotry. You put the Japanese in internment camps. You messed around with the Chinese. Hell, who you didn't mess with? But there is nobody in this country who has had the exact same experience of those who are descendants from enslaved people, compliment the Confederate. And guess what? In the southern states and the northern states, their hands are not clean either. So learn the history, sweetness. We sick of these folks. America, y'all better go and come and get these people. And we could talk about all that. We also could talk about greatness and good things and how we want to be on the path of progress and how we want to lift people and how we want to have reconciliation and truth in this country and how we want to make sure that we right our wrongs. We can have that conversation too. And if anybody is too fragile to understand how this country was formed, I don't know what to tell you. No, I know what to tell you. One of my mentors, Fannie M. Lewis, who's in the ancestral plane, used to say, Jesus loved you and I'm trying to like you. And y'all making it really hard with all your lies.